Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. We are here to talk about the ACP-520 Cloud Org Admin, Atlassian Cloud Org Admin certification. There we go. Hope you all had a great weekend wherever you are. And if you could quickly know in the chat if you can hear me. Looks like we've already got folks from all over the place. The RV capital of the world. I'm not exactly sure where that is. Um, And also Fort Worth, Texas. Welcome, John, Sanam, Sarah, Justin. Awesome. Glad you can hear me. We have a very exciting topic today talking about users and groups. This particular topic I broke into 2 weeks. So we'll do about half of it this week, about half of it next week. Northern Indiana, John Elder. Awesome. Is that the RV capital of the world, or is that where you're at? As usual, we're going to have a few slides just to orient ourselves and then jump into both Atlassian's learning, but also, a hands-on admin panel so we can see this. So we're just going to get started. We're already looking at, about 12 folks, which is awesome. And already 3 likes. I love that. You like this so much, you're liking it in advance. Oh, I need to turn on my little tiny head. There we go. All right, folks. Quick way of reminder, my name is Rob. I've had a career in different flavors of IT, help desk, project management consultant, etc. Most recently found myself doing freelance contract work, so I've changed my career path a little bit. Still highly involved in the Atlassian ecosystem though, and spending more time doing creation and training, so you'll see more stuff like this. Been using Atlassian for about 12 years now. Not much as an admin though. Typically I'm on the user or space admin side. And just as a reminder, products are now called apps. Alexi, I hope I'm saying that right. Welcome. Good to have you here. So just a heads up, you'll see me use that term apps instead of product. I'm going to trip up in the same way. I'm going to call work items that old thing and soon to be Jira Spaces, which will happen in October, it sounds like. For interaction, please use the chat. Many of you have found it already. I will do a couple of different things. I will add a Q&A. And this one I'm going to add will drop a bar at the top. You can click on that to kind of save your questions for me. I'll be able to see those, and then I'll pull them up when I have some Q&A time, and I'll sprinkle that throughout here. You can also just drop them in the general chat, and I'll be able to find them pretty easily there as well. So please use either of those. I added this based on some feedback I've got, just to make sure I can do all the questions at once and make sure people have time for that Q&A. But please use that to save your questions. Also, if you find yourself liking this video, please hit the like button. That is the easiest way for you to support me, but also for other people to find this. You can also subscribe, of course. I've got regular content. I'll be doing 1 or 2 videos a week. But I'll remind you to hit that like button throughout this. Again, I'm now a professional content person, so I will just need a little bit more support from y'all, and that's the easiest possible way to do it. You can also save and share this video. The other folks who think like it, do that. But again, please use the chat. Drop in your questions, interact with each other, and be on the lookout for things like that Q&A, but also a poll, which I'll drop one in here right now. Now, I'll drop in a 1 to 4 question sometimes. A 1 is not at all, or you don't know anything about it, and a 4 is like you're super confident. So you'll also see me drop polls. You can just click a number, whatever you're most comfortable with is the easiest way to interact with those. And yes, Justin, I'm already getting the word out. Thinking about our exam, the ACP-520, we spent the last few weeks talking about Atlassian organizations and how the structure is organized through you've got your org, you've got your sites, you've got your products, or your apps rather. Now we're going to dig into users and groups, and this is the second biggest chunk of the exam. So that's why we'll have 2 weeks on this. Just another thing to consider if as you're studying, spend some more time with users and groups. It's 34% of the exam. So if you can nail every question on orgs and users and groups, you're going to pass the exam because you need a 62 to pass, I think. I'm not saying don't study the rest of it or ignore it. Just saying that if you focus just on those things, you're going to be doing very well on this exam. So again, 34%. We'll do half of the content this week, half the next week. And we're going to be talking about granting access to an org. So how do we get new people into it? We're going to be talking about revoking access or getting people out of the org, and then managing groups. And I'll be honest, the groups thing is what drives me crazy the most. And that's because as I use Atlassian products, I haven't been an org or site admin, so I can't manage or make groups. And that makes it hard to do things like manage permissions because they're either user or group based. So I'll probably spend a little bit more time on groups just to reinforce my own learning. And it looks like a good percentage of us are familiar with managing users and groups. I love it. DC projects will live forever. I assume that's data center, but I always hear in my mind Washington, DC, the capital of the U.S. And they do have many projects there, I'm sure. All right, so these are the three main topics. Let's see if I've got... Look at that question already asked. We're going to pop just back into the Atlassian Learning. In here, I'm in the Cloud Org Admin. And just some reminders, in here, there is this exam topics PDF. This is definitely worth getting a copy at and just looking at. This details everything you need to know, as well as links to information about them. They don't have this for the ACA certifications, which drives me nuts, but you'll see it for the ACPs. So you've got some great information in here for your studying on like how to manage users and how to create managed accounts and a whole bunch of other great stuff that you can use to supplement your studying with me. And again, we just need a 62% to pass. I'll pop in here. And maintaining users. Justin, I appreciate that. I worked at an organization that had a very robust Active Directory AD integration. And we would get groups for, it was like every office, every department, every job title, every manager. And that made it insanely easy to slice and dice permissions because I just had the group for everything. All right, I'm going to shut down this Q&A, but we had over half of us are comfortable with managing users and groups, which is pretty cool. Although people are changing their answers on me here. Still over half of us are comfortable with it. All right, so first is granting access. I don't know why that's popping up. Let me get that out of here. Thank you, Apple. You can stop now. Excuse me. Two ways to do this, by group or by user. And we'll pop into the admin panel and see this in just a minute. But shockingly, there's a big old button that just says grant access. Let me grab a screenshot of this. Please let me know if that beep came through. That's another thing I'm trying to fix. If it did, I'll have to go fire my IT guy and find a new one. That's a bit of a joke because I am my own IT guy. All right, we're just going to pop into our admin panel, which is admin.atlassian.com. I'm going to open up you. All right, so here's the home page, just dropping me my overview. I'm going to go into products, or I lied, directory. Here we go. And here I can see users. This is me, shockingly. I can do things like add to groups, prompt resets. But the important thing for this, I only have user admin. Wait, why can't I zoom in? And why is that showing up? There we go. Well, that bugs me, Valerian. Thank you. I appreciate the sanity check. So I'm going to go swap. Here we go. Nope, not that one. This one. Yay, I have users. Okay. Here I have org admin and I have no users. Let me go. Problems I run into, folks, when I have too many organizations to go manage. This one's got people. Here we go. I've got a couple of users here. Some kind of automation and a couple of people. Go into products and I can go manage one of these. Awesome. All right. So here I can manage access to this based on groups. So I've got, these are all the default groups that were created when Confluence was made. But I've got a user groups here. And one thing I think it was one of the Justins mentioned is we can automate group access. And if we can do that, if we can automatically put people in the users group as they are hired into the organization or as they're onboarded, they can then automatically be given a particular role in there. So I might have an automatic admin group, for example. And when people are added to that group in Active Directory, they automatically get piped into the admin group for that particular product. So this gives me access to Confluence. Or I would do that based on user. And so this is one way to do it, is that magical automation. But I can also come in here and I can open up any one of these groups. And I can just add a group member to it. And that will then add them to the group, and based on the group, give them access to the product. So in this case, I'm not giving them direct access to Confluence. I'm giving them to the group, and then the group is doing its thing. Let me zoom out here. And giving them access to whichever product it's connected to. This is, in my mind, a better way to manage it because you've got the groups in the middle, if that makes sense. You can have groups tied to location or director or department or whatever. And even if you can't automatically feed them, your project admins, your space admins can then just go in and pick the appropriate group and they'll know who's in them. So they just know that, oh, in the users Heen Tech group, that's all my users. I'll just put them in as basic access. And let me get rid of a whole whack of these. Approved domains is another one. This is something I haven't set up. So let's go find this product, user access, add domains. All right. A domain would be if we all work at JQuil Industries, jquil.com. I could say anyone with a jquil.com email can get access to it in some way. So again, it's a way of automating the access based on some other permission, some other grouping. In this case, I get hired into the company. IT gives me that email address, and that gives me access. So it's another way to remove the need for me to go in every Monday and add Sachin into the access list because he's a new hire. He just exists in here. So we go to products. Thank you. User access. Yes, thank you. Settings. Justin R., good to see you, my friend. Glad you could join in the fun. We are just talking about the topic of user access settings and then adding a domain. And so here I've got Heen Tech as a domain, any domain applied, and I can go in and edit what happens with Heen Tech. Well, if they're in here, I can automatically give them user. Maybe I also give them customer to Jira Service Management. So I can control based on their email, essentially, what they get. I also can optionally gate it to admin approval. So large orgs may not want to do this. If you have, say, thousands of workers or hundreds being hired in a week, which is not as uncommon as I initially thought. But I can add another check here where, oh, I as the admin would have to go in and approve all the new hires or all the new accounts that are being created. One reason you might want to do that is to control, I think they mentioned it in here somewhere, control license access. Because that's going to have a lot of cost. Yep, Justin, you're reading my mind here, my friend. So depending on how you're set up and depending on how many licenses you have, you may or may not want to go down that route, just because you will get more and more people, and that will make your license cost go up and up and up. So something that as admins we have to be aware of. This is an easy way to automate access, but it's also an easy way to automate a big bill. So something that I imagine would show up on the exam is what's going to happen, or what is a side effect of turning on approved domains. You'll get a big bill. And that's where this request checkbox might be a good idea. You kind of have a nice middle ground. If you edit this, you can say, yeah, if you want Confluence and Jira, you need to get access. Justin is saying it happened at your company before you took over. After you took over, were you hailed as a hero, and did they lift you up and cheer your name? Hopefully, because that happens to system admins, right? You can also directly invite someone. So you might actually. I don't think I've worked at an org that ever did invites. I always happen to have been at places that had the approved domains and or group membership set up. So when people are just hired, they get access. But again, I can pick an individual user and send out that invite. We can invite anyone we want. Again, anywhere I see, an existing product user can invite another user. That to me is like a question. I want to be careful with that because as much as I trust and appreciate all the people I work with and all the users I have, some of them at some point are going to invite the wrong person accidentally. They're going to mistype an email. Something will happen and you'll end up with some rando walking around your Confluence instance or your Jira space. So this one I'd be careful with, allowing anyone to invite anyone. More typically, I could see like request admin approval. Justin, that is awesome. You cut your bill in half. I love that. That is also something. The parade was a nice touch. That's just a general system admin thing. Like as we're learning all these buttons about how to use Jira and what they do, we also need to keep in mind like our role as the admin is to make sure the system works and supports our teams as best as they can. And part of that is going to be billing, and part of that will be reviewing lists of people who have access. It's not glamorous. It can be boring, but every 3 months, for example, you might go in and double check and make sure these settings are still correct. All right, require admin approval. This one I can see being more common. Hey, I want to invite Justin, and my admin has to then tick a box saying, yes, you can, or no, you can't come in and get that access. All right, folks, it's going to a quick coffee break for me. My throat's a bit dry, but a quick reminder for all of you, if you like this, please hit that little like button. There's about 45 people in here, and it would be stellar if we could get 40 likes. I don't know what I would do with 40 likes. They're not redeemable for, prizes or anything, but I'd appreciate if you hit that like button if this is useful to you. All right, and then invite approved domains. This is similar. Existing users can invite people with the same email domain, but again, there's no approval required. So there's this risk of your bill is going to go up because you have people inviting people inviting people. The advantage is then you as the admin don't have to go invite everyone. Your team can go invite them as well, but you might get this uncontrolled case of just a lot of people being invited. John's got a good point here. It could be, Atlassian could make this a little easier. And to John, your point, they certainly do want to make money with licensing. However, we're also stuck using this thing. And I'd be curious for folks in the chat if you have any tips on how to manage licenses. I'll also bring this up in our Discord, which I'll drop a link there. But if you have tips on how to manage licensing, that would be good to share with the group so other folks can also get in on that. Rodney, the coffee to me is brought by, I think I saw Chad. Yep. One of my coffee sponsors. One way to support the channel is become a coffee sponsor and keep me in caffeine. And then you can also disallow invites. So users can't invite users. Popping back into my admin panel, I've got a user invites. And this is under user access settings. And this sets permissions for all the apps. And these are those settings. Anyone can invite anyone. Anyone can invite anyone with approval. Anyone can invite, cannot invite anyone. And just no invites at all. Again, if I did these, I would require the approvals just to make sure I, as the admin, know what's going on. And then you can change these by app. John, I don't disagree with you, my friend, necessarily. I wonder if there's some kind of add-on or marketplace thing that could help you there. On this last one, Just flip that off real quick. We also have an invitation link. Another way to allow someone to get in. Notice it says without admin approval. So I would be very careful anywhere it's without admin approval. I could give this to just people on the internet, and they could jump on in and get into my instance. I can see cases of that working, or I could see a use case for it. Yeah, smaller user bases and non-managed accounts. So if I had maybe like a club at school or through my university, and we all have different emails, we're not all in one domain. Invites could make a lot of sense. But if I'm in a big company, again, jcool.com, we would just use the managed accounts, connect it to the domain, and only get those. Invitation links we just spoke about. They do expire, which is nice. So they don't hang out there forever. However, you can use invitation links and then people can get in. And it even says in here, appoint another individual that you trust. So please keep in mind, again, as an admin, you are the gatekeeper. You are the person who is accountable for controlling your system. Grant user access using the invite users. So we can go into our directory. And there's just this nice big invite user button. Do other people see that too? Or like the text is just like slightly off? Oh, that's going to annoy me. So you can punch in email addresses for folks. Again, smaller groups would probably use this to provision. Bigger organizations, if I had to do this more than a few times a week, I would probably go insane. And that's where I would use, group provisioning, managed domain, something like that, where I, as the admin, don't have to go punch in the keys every week. Excuse me. I could just trust that it would be there. All right. And not seeing any questions yet. Awesome. So again, different ways to get folks into the system. For me, adding to groups and having groups set up makes the most sense. At least because that can be automated and I, as the admin, don't have to go touch it. Using those trusted domains is also very useful. For me personally, the manual invites a little bit less so, especially the ones that anyone can just go share. Dario, good question about automatic dubbing. That is turned on for the channel. I don't know if it works on live streams. I'll double check, but it should be flipped on for the recordings. So I'll make sure that it is. If not, like if you don't see it after this, shoot me an email, let me know in Discord, that kind of thing, and I'll see what I can figure out. But it should be enabled for the recorded videos. These little boxes are always important, especially for the exam. It's saying it'll send an invite to the user, but they have to have an Atlassian account. So I could easily see a question saying, Dario was invited to use these products, but he was unable to. What's the most likely cause? No Atlassian account, he didn't get an invite, managed domains isn't turned on, whatever. This is the kind of question that we as admins just need to know, where that Atlassian account is the underlying requirement, and then on top of that, you get product access. All right. Access requests, users land on a specific product, they can access request. Add a request for it. There we go. Excuse me. What do we got here? 24? Only for user product access. They're never about admin or product privileges. Huh. Who can request access? Existing users can request new access to products. They can also request access to existing users or completely new users, but only to products they have access to. I need to unpack this here. Hang on. Existing users can request access to new products. All right, so if I don't have Jira and my organization has it, I can request access to it. Great. I could also request access for Rodney if he's already a user, or completely new users, or John if he doesn't have access. Great. And new users with a verified email and an Atlassian account can also request access. I guess that makes sense. If I already have access to the product, if my email has been verified and I already have an Atlassian account, I can say, hey, admin, give me access. It depends on our settings. Justin. This one's interesting because I imagine when people request access, they just trip over Jira, let's say, or they get a link or something. And the way Atlassian has set it up, it sounds like that will just allow them to say, hey, Justin, can I have access? Most processes you probably want, to your point, someone to go in and put in like an IT ticket somewhere that then has it route through an official approval so you can audit and track all that. I wonder if there's any way to insert that over this. I wonder. Okay, where do we find this? Products, user requests. Manage existing access requests. I've got my access settings. And again, these are the approved domains, how all the invites work, and my invitation links. And user interests, interesting. There will be no activity in here because I haven't had anyone request. But this is where I can see outstanding access requests and also based by site if I have multiple sites. And then trending interests. What are most people clicking on? I'd be curious for the admins who have bigger orgs if this is of any use. I could see this information helping me as an admin kind of understand, is our auto provisioning not set up correctly? That kind of thing. And that can also, as Justin is pointing out, an agent on some other team is requesting access for end users and don't even know she knows that she's doing it. So this could be a good example of a feature that our friends at Atlassian made that maybe isn't the most conducive to a successful working environment. I would be curious, though, if folks have found a useful way to use this feature. Just because I could see it easily going sideways, especially with bigger orgs, as more people are clicking on things. Just like Justin's saying, you might accidentally request access to folks when you mean to put in a ticket or something else. All right, switching over to revoking access or getting rid of access. Again, this can be partially automated through things like group membership. And that for me is not the best way to do things, but it's a very good way to do things because it's automatic. There's less risk of someone keeping their access. And that can be insanely important in controlled environments. If you're any kind of auditing, any kind of compliance, you want to be able to prove to auditors, hey, the system's just going to automatically get rid of access when Rob leaves. I don't have to do anything about that. Okay, we can suspend a user. You can't access the org. Org admins can always restore a suspended user from their page and grant them the same access. And you can suspend managed and unmanaged. Okay, so the term is suspension. You're pausing their access, essentially. And this has downstream impacts. So, for example, they don't show up in user pickers. This is one way, when I've been at companies, you can tell if someone is maybe going to be like leaving the company, if they're going to be terminated, because you type in their name to assign them a work item and their name doesn't show up. That just means their access has been turned off. And I have tripped over instances like that quite a bit. It also impacts billing. Because they can't use the system, they don't count towards your bill. So something to consider as you're looking at that list, as you do your audits, if these people don't need access right now, you can suspend their access and then you don't have to pay for them. They can't log in and people can't interact with those accounts. They still exist. You can turn them back on. You can unsuspend them or restore, but it's got these other things. Now, group memberships aren't impacted. Their user stays in them and are added to new ones if they're restored. And there's this call out about org admins. So if I have someone who's an org admin, I'll use John as the example, and I suspend his account, I don't have to go in and pull him out of that org admin group as well. his account's suspended, so he can't log in. This is included, I think, mostly for the are we being compliant, but also from the if I suspend an org admin, can they go in and just unsuspend themselves? No, they can't, because their account has been suspended. They can't log in. It's just telling me as the other admin they can hang out there. And this is not like deleting a page in Confluence, like after 30 days they get purged. Suspended users remain suspended until you either restore them or remove them. Justin created an entire issue type and workflow. I guess, John, how did you get around the challenge that Justin mentioned of users still, requesting access for someone? Like, in my mind, that's going to be a lot of just user education, like, please don't click this button kind of thing. Because I don't think you can stop them, right? Like, you can't disable that. You can direct them, though, to your workflow, to your request on how to do it, and just remind people, no, go put your request for an accountant over here. Quick coffee break, and quick, please like and subscribe. Again, easiest way to support me and my caffeine habit. Although if you want to directly support my caffeine habit, you can become a channel member. You get some fun little perks, including access to my entire back catalog of live trainings. We can deny the ability to request access. Let's pop over here real quick. User invites don't allow invites. That's for invites, though. Is that the same thing as requesting access? John. What's that old joke? I'm going to file this for corporate, and you put the paper into the paper shredder. We route emails to a specific folder, which is ignored. All right, then. To suspend access, we just pop in users and select suspend access. Got my directory. And I've got this fun little, and my giant, excuse me, excuse me, folks. Sorry. Excuse me, sorry. Whee. Oh, that's the wrong one. This one. Boink. There we go. I've got adding to group, suspend access, and remove user. And you'll notice the remove user, like many places in Atlassian products, is a nice red. So that's just a visual reminder that, hey, this is different than. I appreciate that, Chad. Chad was my first coffee sponsor. I'm glad he finds his coffee membership worth it. And I appreciate you. So that's how we suspend access. Ooh, and a good call out. Users who are not suspended are active users. So unless they're suspended, we can assume they are active. Okay, that makes sense. They show up in suspended status in the users list. That makes a lot of sense. But again, they're not going to lose their group memberships. They'll still show up there, but they won't show up in product. So I can't search for them, mention them, that kind of thing. Now, contrast that to removing a user. Again, if we think of suspension as like archival, we can think of removing as deletion. And that's, more permanent. Remove users with access to products. So user admins can control access to products. Org admin can control it across the org. And you can remove managed and unmanaged accounts. Cool. Yep, when you're removed, you can no longer collaborate or access any of its products. So again, at the org level, and this is why it's important to understand the structure of org site product. If you take them out at the top, they're gone. Now, call out right here. This is, I kind of laugh at myself. If you remove them from an org, you only remove them from that org. Like on the one hand, yes, that makes a lot of sense. However, if you have multiple organizations at your company, or you work with multiple organizations, you'll have to go take them out of multiple organizations in Atlassian if you need to. So there's no like remove them from every org that I manage button. It's just within an organization. There's no structure above that lets you manage those. It does remove their memberships. So big difference between suspension and removal. Like removing removes them. It takes them out of the system. So that includes things like memberships. Their work history and activity is preserved, though. So this isn't like, if you've seen Avengers, this isn't like the snap where they're removed from reality in all existence. Things that they have done still exist. You don't get billed for a removed user. So this would be, again, as an admin, I understand how much we're paying for these products. And now, once they're removed, they would be treated like a brand new user. So they could be re-added any of the ways we've spoken about. Direct invite, addition to a group membership, that kind of thing. So they can come back. They would just be treated essentially as a new account, a new user. Justin's pointing out here on work items, their name can fall off. It doesn't go to unassigned, does it, Justin? It goes to like their user ID or something. I seem to remember tripping over that too. Like a way to tell if someone has been fired is if all their tickets suddenly become, change in some way. That's very obvious. And again, we can remove them in a similar way to how we would suspend them. So coming in to my user group, moving my giant head, and then clicking remove. So that's suspension and removal. Again, suspension might be preferable in many cases because it kind of preserves their account, but you aren't billed for it. They can't access things. Removing pulls them out entirely. And I guess a question for the group. Why would you suspend someone instead of remove them? Like, what are some practical examples or reasons that you as an admin might choose one or the other? I have my own ideas that I'll share, but I'm curious what the group thinks in terms of, we have these two ways of essentially pulling someone out of our org. Why would we pick one or the other? All right, so that is granting access. Again, I can come in here and there's a directory, products rather. From here, of my user access settings, I can approve domains. I can allow invites or not. And I can allow invite links that allow anyone with a link to come on in. An LOA, as everyone knows, that's a lovely org affair. Light. I can't make up a TLA right now. I don't know what's wrong with me. I assume leave of absence, Chad. You can manage requests for people who have requested it in here, and also get that tracking of the interests. And then from the directory, you can suspend and revoke. Yep, that's about what I was thinking. If I get a request from a manager, hey, get rid of Rob's access, I would do it. Or if they leave the organization, they're terminated for any reason, would probably remove. If they're on a leave of absence, they're going away for an extended period of time, I would suspend their access. The thinking being, hey, you're not actively working right now, so you don't need access to the systems. So that's how we've spoken about how users get in and how to get them out. Now it's about groups. And again, for me, this was the most interesting part because for me, groups were not the single most useful tool I had, but one of the most useful tools that I had, and I could never make them because I didn't have access to make groups. Organization-wide collections of users. Yep. These are not to be confused with teams. Teams are a different thing. Teams are things that end users can manage and do, but don't impact access, which drives me nuts. So you will be reliant on your org admin to manage and create groups. And you can do things like add or remove members from them. The biggest thing I use them for is granting access and granting product permissions. I would use them a lot for spaces or for page restrictions in Confluence. And so they're just ways, again, of sharing information easily. And so when they're set up well, they make everyone else's life a heck of a lot easier, especially your project or space admins, because they don't have to then type in everyone's name in an access list. They can just add, everyone who reports up to Chad gets access to this page, and it just manages itself. One call out, you cannot delete the org admins group or get rid of the last org admin because you absolutely must have an org admin. So you can't, if there's an episode of Futurama, a TV show, where they're inside a box with their own reality, I can't explain this easily, but they reach outside of their own box and pull their own reality into the box. You can't do that. You can't delete your own access as the last org admin. I really hope that made access to somebody. Never thought of suspension for a leave of absence. It might also depend on the environment, Justin. I could imagine in more regulated environments, like you have to suspend someone when they're on an LOA of some kind. I go on a parental leave. Yeah, so it may depend on org policy. It also is probably just good practice. One, that person's out, they shouldn't have to worry about working. But two, it reduces the risk of something happening. If someone gets access to that account while they're out, you don't even have to worry because they cannot log in. Back to groups. When we create a product, it automatically adds some number of groups. So these are just there will probably be questions about this on the exam. You have a brand new, copy of Confluence. Which group for sure will exist? And you'll just have to know the naming convention. So there's one for access, product name, users, site name, Confluence -users -Hintech, Jira -users -Acme, etc. So product, user, site name. Admins get a similar thing. Product name, admin, site name. User access admins get the same thing. Guests, shockingly, in Confluence get the same thing. Confluence guest, site name. You're probably noticing a pattern where site name shows up at the end and type of access appears in the middle. Now, these last three are specific to Confluence, gets as guests, and then customers and stakeholders are in Jira Service Management. And so just keep in mind it's name of product, users, admins, user access admins, site name. We can change the default group if you want. I can't. I personally wouldn't, or I can't think of a reason I'd want to unless I had some naming convention I was forced to follow. Because the naming convention in my mind makes sense. But you also cannot remove the only default access group. So similar to how I cannot get rid of the org admin group, I can't delete the only default access group for that. And that's just to ensure there's always a group that controls access to the product. The org admin or user access admin can use several groups as default access groups. You cannot use the org admins group. So again, just another call out. The org admins group is its own special, unique Snowflake thing. Only org admins go in there. You cannot also make that the group that controls access to Jira, as an example. That's something I'll probably memorize just because I can bet it's going to pop up on the exam as a question. All right, when you remove users from groups, it affects what they can do in products. That makes a lot of sense. If you take them out of a group, they could lose access to a product. So if I take someone out of the Confluence access or Confluence users site name group, they can't access Confluence anymore. That makes a lot of sense. They could lose administrative access. They could be a product admin or a space admin or a project admin. And depending on how they got that access, it could be pulled out. So again, this is the advantage of a group, right? I don't have to go into every project and remove Chad. I just take Chad out of the Confluence admin, space admins group, and that automatically strips his access. Billing is another one. Putting users in groups can impact billing if they get access to a new product. So keep in mind, and this could, I think it was one of the Justins mentioned earlier, auditing access and seeing how people get it. We want to be careful with putting people in groups because it can cost us money. Some best practices. Again, we don't have to do these things, but I would take the advice from Atlassian. I think they hopefully know what they're talking about. Avoid granting too many groups access to a product. This is mostly, I think, for our sanity as admins. We don't want to have too many groups floating around. use naming conventions. And I'm just going to drop a question for the group in here. What naming conventions? Naming conventions comes up a lot in these live streams for some reason, shockingly. But in many cases, like if I go look at my groups in here, the only way to really know what these groups do is by the name. Confluence Guest Teen Tech. That tells me guest in Confluence. If I just had a group called Guest or a group called Confluence and I look at the name, I'd have no idea what it's doing. And this would make it insanely hard not only for me to manage my instance, but for other people who use it. Because not everyone, would have my knowledge of how it's set up. And this is where it's important to make time as admins to kind of self-document things by giving them good names. And actually, just a quick poll here. I'm kind of curious how people answer this, but do you use naming conventions? I am really bad at naming conventions. In the same way I'm really bad about naming pages in Confluence or naming projects properly. In my head, I always have good naming conventions. In reality, I really do not. Yes, Chad, exactly that. Department code team function, ECF ITSD level 1. Nice. Executive certified finances. Nailed it. Limit the number of org admins and user admins. This is one that especially smaller organizations might be guilty of. Having too many people with, the user admin or org admin access can be a bad thing. You might think it's good. Hey, Chad and both Justins and Mahendra, we're all going to be admins. But then it's harder for any one of us to manage it because there's more people running around doing things. Justin may go make a group and I might not know what it does. Or, Chad may change some kinds of setting that I'm unaware of. So this is where, as orgs mature, they tend to be more restrictive with this access. Small companies might say, yeah, everyone can have it. Unlock everything, give everyone access. And then you end up with a lot of issues and challenges. So it's just a general good best practice thing, not just for Atlassian. Grant access by assigning roles rather than group memberships. Interesting. Curious, why do we think this? Yes, too many cooks spoils the broth, so to speak. Another interesting question for the group. Why is this considered a best practice? Assign roles rather than group memberships. I'm trying to think of why, but I'm curious what the group thinks. So keep track of your audit log to be aware of new groups. As an admin, and I always have to go look for this, I forget where it is. We have an audit log that records like everything that happens. Now, it's tied to Really? No, I want my org audit log. It's tied to Guard, of course, which I'm not paying for, so I don't have. But if you're using Atlassian Guard, you would get a list of every activity that happens in here. And this would be logins. This would be make a group. This would be change access. Oop, sorry, let me get rid of that. So as an admin, maybe I have it over here. As an admin, I would go in there and just double check and see what's going on if I notice that there are groups that were created or if something happened or changed that I was unaware of. And I don't have access. Okay, fine. Fine, I'll leave. All right, looks like folks are pondering this question. And it looks like most of us use naming conventions. Again, I joke that I use them just not very well. I just need more practice, and I need to remind myself there's something I should be doing a lot, though. All right, folks, that is about all I have for today. As always, I'll request your help. I'm looking for feedback on how to make these better. I'll drop this QR code. This is also a link to a Google form, just a couple questions. Even if you've already filled it out, if you have new ideas on how I can be doing better, on how your learning experience could work. Drop in that form. We also have that Discord community I've mentioned a few times. That's a great place to go, and I'll continue the naming convention discussion in there because I think we can offer each other a lot with naming conventions. Rodney's got a good response here. Using roles in a permission scheme rather than groups allows them to be reused in multiple projects. So controlling access at the app level, not at the group org level. And we can assign individuals. Again, this is what I have been trapped doing because I cannot make groups. I would have to type in all the names of all the wonderful people who need access to my projects. Also, being a professional YouTuber, if you like this, please hit the like button. I've got 17 likes on this video, which is stupendous. And I need to, fit into that stereotype of please like and subscribe. It helps people find this content. All right. Schemes in Jira are... I'm slowly unpacking them, Chad. Oh, Tushar, I'm sorry. I do about an hour. I am experimenting with longer sessions. I've been doing, mostly on Thursdays, 90-minute deeper dives into things like Confluence for project admins. So be on the lookout for those. Also, again, I mentioned that I am changing careers, essentially. I'm now going to be freelancing and being a content creator. So I'm still working in Atlassian products, just a different job, kind of doing my own thing, which is amazing. So I'll start changing the times these are offered. Right now, I have to do 6 to 7 a.m. Pacific because that's when my job would start, and I had to go take my kids to school and all that. But now, I can change the time. And I can also do things like make more courses on Udemy or online. So this is one I'm excited about. I'm going to start making courses to specific Atlassian certifications. So this one is about an hour and a half, hour 20 minutes. And this is all about the ACA 910. So this is ITSM and Jira Service Management and is intended as a basics, excuse me, kind of a basic entry-level almost certification for folks. I'll drop a code, coupon code here, but if this is something you're interested in, the ACA 910, this is a great resource for you. This is in addition to the live sessions I do. So I'll keep doing the live sessions for free, but if you know folks who want to get in on this or to have it recorded, this is the place to go. So you'll see more of these coming out. I'll be kind of doing one for each ACA, and I'm figuring out how to do them for the ACP level. So again, I have more time to do learnings like this if folks think it's useful and interesting, and I'll get my big fat head out of the way. And I've also got a course going live on Trello today with Brittany Joyner, which to me is pretty exciting. So check out that coupon code on the top for the ACA course, and I've got this other one on Trello for project managers that I'll drop. Otherwise, our next session will be next Friday. That should be hopefully not too much of a surprise. But please review this. Jump into a demo box, or if you are an org admin and can go in and take a look, go look at how your organization is managed. Go talk to your admin just to see how it works. But just so you understand all the mechanics of everything. The second code will be a coupon code for the Trello course. That's about 2.5 hours, the basics of Trello and project management. Well, so far the only feedback on time is Justin telling me 9 a.m. works. Okay. Thank you, Tushar. I appreciate it. Did I say next Friday? I meant next Monday. Next Monday. Thank you. I was thinking of the other one, Justin. The next session is next Monday, the 28th. So please join me on the 28th. Between now and then, please study. Go over, this recording if you need to. Go check out Atlassian's Learning. Go get hands-on. But talk to people. Join us in Discord. We've got a great group in there talking about this stuff, sharing information in meetings. And then check out that site. I've got more information. John, yeah, all these votes count. So far, all the votes have been for don't change the times of these things. What I may end up doing is offering different things at different times. So I'll keep these study sessions, at least for now, at this time slot, and I'll toy around with offering different sessions at different times. But for this group, I can keep doing the 6 to 7. I'm used to getting up. I've got some coffee sponsors. And if you really want to show your support, you can help buy me more coffee, more caffeine, please. Just become a channel member. Yes, as Rodney's saying, there's a ton of resources. I'm curious if you could link them in the Discord, Rodney, just so folks can see them. I trip over a bunch when I do a Google search or dig through community, but if you've got some in mind, would love if you could share them. I'm going to pop into the questions. I don't see any hanging out. All right, folks, that was managing users and groups. Again, it's a kind of a basic topic, but one that's really important for us as admins on the ACP-520. If you haven't, please if you like this, easiest way to support me. Otherwise, I'll leave this open for a few minutes if folks have any last minute questions. But I hope to see you in Discord and in the next session. This particular one will be next Monday at 6 a.m. Pacific. But I've got other sessions throughout the week I'd love to see you at. And thank you all for joining me. I appreciate you training with me. I love how folks are using my trainings to block out time at work. I can't say I would tell you to do that, but by all means, this helps make you a better employee, so it's obviously worth your time. Sachin, you're welcome. Glad you could come. Thank you, Justin R. And thank you again, folks. It's a great way to start the week. I hope you have a wonderful week wherever you are and your day starts or ends well, whichever end of the day you're on. It is work-related, Chad. Yes. All right, folks. I'll see you around. Check out those Udemy course links. They'll also be in the description. Join us in Discord.